I'm Supervisor Don Knabe. I'm pleased to welcome you back to another episode of Dialed In. Los Angeles County is one of the arts and entertainment capitals of the world. Of course, we are home to movie stars, celebrities, the Oscars. But Los Angeles County also has hundreds of museums, art galleries, and music venues displaying everything from paintings and sculptures to live bands and operas. Two of the most popular cultural gems in the region are the Los Angeles County Museum of Art and the Music Center. LACMA, home to over 100,000 pieces of art, draws visitors from all over the world to see stunning works, photography, painting, sculpture, and much more. And the Music Center, with its 5 performance venues, has been at the heart and soul of the downtown Los Angeles cultural boom since the 1960s. This month, I'm excited to welcome the CEO of LACMA and the interim president and chief operating officer of the Music Center to discuss the impact these cultural cornerstones have had on the transformation of the largest county in America into the premier place to take an art exhibit, a play, or a symphony. I hope you'll enjoy the show.
When Connie Andrews got married, her maid of honor, Caitlin, made some unauthorized alterations to her dress. And Connie realized Caitlin was not her friend. When Connie got satellite, she joined the millions who don't get true on-demand. And she realized satellite was not her friend. Now Connie has Charter, with over 10,000 titles, many free. It's the on-demand she always wanted. Take it from Connie. Satellite is not your friend. Watch over 10,000 titles on demand with Charter.
Welcome back to Dialed In. My first guest today is CEO and Director of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, Michael Govman. Michael joined LACMA 2006 and oversees all the activities of the museum. Under his great leadership, LACMA has become one of the premier art destinations in the world, housing more than 120,000 antiquities, including several well-known public art pieces like the Urban Light and the Levitated Mass. Thanks for joining me today, Michael.
It's a pleasure, Supervisor, to be here with you.
Well, first of all, people maybe not realize or don't know, what is LACMA and where is it located?
So we are the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. We're one of the largest art museums in the United States, certainly the largest in the western United States. And we're right on Wilshire Boulevard, near the corner of Fairfax. So kind of in the middle of everything and near where there'll be actually a new subway stop in the next decade.
Exactly. So you've had a very unique background in art and museums and different. How did you get to LACMA?
You know, I trained to be an artist. I just love the creative activities of what humans can do, and then you need a day job. So I ended up working in a museum, screwing in light bulbs and, taking art history courses. And you end up in museums, which were it's a marvelous field because you get to work with artists, with patrons, and with so many people. So I was drawn west by the good weather, and also the new world view. Being in New York so long, that connection to Europe. But if you look at the new world, the connection to Latin America and Asia, the Pacific, puts LACMA in a really great place in the world, not just in Los Angeles. And I was really drawn for that new world as well as the good weather.
And yeah, the good weather right now, right? I mean, particularly, but I think too, people forget, we got the ports down there. I mean, we are sort of that world capital right here, right in the center of all the new world activity.
Well, that's what I say. Los Angeles is the most multicultural metropolis on earth right now. And LACMA really is a museum of every culture. So I see LACMA as the sort of multicultural center for a multicultural metropolis, multicultural county. We have art from all over the world, and I think anybody, no matter where you come from, can come to LACMA and feel their own identity as well as share interest in the world.
So what kind of pieces can people see at the museum? Most people think of an art museum and think of pieces of art hanging on the wall. That's not always the case. I mean, there's so much more there.
That's right.
At your facility.
People really come to museums now for a whole experience. So one of the things we've done is really emphasize the indoor-outdoor. You come, now everybody knows where LACMA is. It's where those lights are. Urban Light, 202 street lamps from all over LA County that were gathered together by Chris Burden, the artist, who lovingly restored these 20s and 30s street lamps.
It's absolutely amazing. I just want to tell the viewers out there, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, I was there for the opening when the switch went on. I mean, that is an incredible scene.
Well, and I go dry. You can go at 2 in the morning. There'll be kids there. Somebody's having a first date. Somebody's shooting a music video. It's open 24/7, and it's become a landmark. In fact, we were named the 4th most Instagrammed museum in the world, and part of that is people just coming to LACMA to take pictures outside. We have Robert Irwin's Palm Gardens. the levitated mass sculpture that gathered so much interest when we moved that 340-ton rock through so many cities and counties.
Through my district.
Through your district. And we offered free days.
Right.
For everyone there to come to the museum, and people came. We had a huge surge in attendance, and so levitated mass draws children, adults, and that's the thing. The museum is a whole experience. There's restaurants, there's outdoor space, plus you go into the galleries, and again, you can see art from all over the world, from ancient times to the present. Right now we have a beautiful show of Hudson River landscapes on view. In the summer we'll have Noah Purifoy, who's an LA African-American artist, really important exhibition. In the fall we'll have a Frank Gehry exhibition of architecture. So you can see anything there.
So explain to folks, how are these things curated? I mean, I know you are working on programs for the museum in the out period. Is that a 6-month project, a year? So how do you sort of curate this whole process of what's inside, outside sort of set in rock right now, but I mean inside, how do you make the decisions to bring in, or what changes, or how far out do you have to work on that?
Well, we work years in advance. I mean, we have a staff of over 30 curators with skills in every culture, history, and language. They propose ideas of what's relevant to the world. It might be to take an exhibition that's being made in Europe or Asia to LACMA. It might be to organize an exhibition. Gifts of the Sultans, for example, which was about gift-giving in the Islamic world, and then that went to the Middle East, or a show of American painting. And so they propose that. They spend years working on a book, an exhibition. We mount it at LACMA, and then often those shows will travel. So you're always seeing changing exhibitions 3 months at a time. And then we have a collection. It's like a library of art from all over the world. And what do we do with that? We show it in our collection galleries, but also we can trade those works we own that are gifts to the museum to get loans from other places. So it's constantly in circulation, and it's very smart people at the museum who've spent their lives loving and studying art who propose exhibitions. It's my job to be the conductor, if you will.
So it's not always just art though either. I mean, it's photographs.
We have everything: sculpture, painting, photography, costume, graphic design, architecture, film. There's a beautiful exhibition of German expressionist cinema on view that's drawn from our archives, from the archives of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and a museum in Europe. So it's everything, and I think that's the pleasure, because you get to see a little of everything.
All right. I mean, I try to tell folks when they go, I said, don't expect just to see paintings on a wall. I mean, it's a whole art experience, and the discipline of art in multidiscipline areas, and it's really an enjoyable experience. What has your attendance been like?
I worked very hard on that in the last several years, in building the indoor-outdoor experience so it's more attractive, better access. So our attendance went from about 600,000 people a year. Now it's well over it's over 1 million people a year. We actually, on the free day for Southern California museums on the last day of January, had 28,000 people at LACMA in one day.
In one day?
In one day. So people now are learning where we are. People are coming from all over Los Angeles County and the world. And I think it's a great time because we're building that sense of place.
And it's sort of interesting how that process draws, instead of sort of being, that snooty art museum kind of a thing. That levitated mass probably drew more attention, not only to the museum, but to what you have inside and outside the museum.
Yeah, also the average length of stay has gone from 45 minutes to 2 hours and 45 minutes, because there's so much to see. You can sit out in the garden under the palm trees. You can
have a coffee,
have lunch, have a coffee, look at the outdoor sculpture, go inside. So it's and the La Brea, the Natural History Museum, the La Brea tar pits are there. Kids love that. The Peterson Automotive Museum is right there, and then soon the Academy Museum of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. And if you come on a weekend, I think one of the biggest draws now is Chris Burden, the same artist who did the Urban Light, has a huge sculpture it's like a model of a city, and it has 1,100 little matchbox-sized cars whizzing around those roads. As you know, it's called Metropolis, and then there are trains, and so it really is something for everybody.
So what are some of the must-see exhibits for visitors right now?
Well, I think so many people come to see Urban Light, to see levitated mass, to see the Metropolis sculpture with all the cars, to see, right now we have this beautiful show of Hudson River landscapes that's going to be great. The big thing coming up is in April is the museum's 50th anniversary. Now, that may sound like a lot, but most of those East Coast museums are well over 100 years old. So we're a young museum, and so in April we celebrated our 50th anniversary, and you're going to see works of art that are being given to the museum from our community, birthday presents for the museum, which will include masterpieces from Jerry Perencio's collection of Impressionist art, or works of art that other community members. That's going to be mounted in April, and there'll be community-free days at the end of April. You can see at lacma.org. We have all the events, concerts that are being mounted for the anniversary.
So what are some of the other things that you're doing for the celebration? I was going to mention 50th anniversary. What's in store for us in addition to the nice birthday presents we're
Well, the
getting?
birthday presents are for the public. You know, for Los Angeles County, we're going to have community-free days. I think we have 7 or 8 concerts in the galleries, on campus, in those last weeks of April. So it really will be a celebration, and the rest of the museum will be open at that time.
So as we sort of move towards the close here, speaking of campus, obviously the county was a good partner here recently in getting that kickoff off the ground, and some of your great donors there. What's in the future for the campus?
Well, at 50, some of your 50-year-old buildings are really aging, and we're not earthquake engineered and other things. So as you know, there's a grand plan to give that very valuable collection a proper home, and the county is collaborating with private citizens to raise the money and build a new facility for the public and for these beautiful works of art. It's a really important thing to do because the current buildings are almost unfunctional, and we have such value in those buildings. But the great thing about the new buildings is not just that they're new, it's how accessible they'll be. It's going to be all glass, so you can walk through the park. I always say you can walk your dog through the park and look through the glass at art. We're going to have all solar panels, so it will be an energy efficient building, won't be a drain, it'll be an energy efficient place. And it's going to be much more accessible in terms of your access to the museum. Right now it's very hard to find your way around, and very few people go to the top levels of the faraway galleries. This will really be an easy place to visit. So we start hopefully construction in 2018-19, and the idea would be to be open with the new subway stop in 2023. But during that period of time, we won't be closed. We'll have 100,000 square feet of exhibition space open while the older buildings are being replaced. And that still makes us one of the largest art museums in the United States. So we'll never be closed. We'll have the outdoor space, the restaurants, the public sculpture, and we'll be going strong straight through then.
Well, I mean, because into the future, I mean, it's just absolutely outstanding what's going to happen. I mean, what you're doing there in the campus, the accessibility, not always just having to go into the museum, but just being part of that atmosphere there. And then with the Motion Picture Academy doing their building, I mean, that is going to be the place to go here in Los Angeles County.
Not only that, it's going to be one of the greatest cultural parks in the world. To have the art museum, the natural history museum, the movie museum, the car museum, subway stop, buses, bikes, walking paths. So it will be amazing. And I just want to say it's not just on campus. LACMA spends over $1 million a year in LAUSD schools. We have trucks. We have a Maya Mobile and a World Art Mobile that takes art to kids in neighborhoods all over LA County. So we have so many programs to bring kids into the museum. I mean, one thing people may not know about LACMA is if you have a kid under 17, your kid can join LACMA for free. We have 190,000 next-gen members, and then they bring their parents. So the kids bring their parents to the museum.
You know, that's really where the future is, whether it's art or some of the other things we do in the county, is nurturing that younger crowd, because ultimately they're future customers.
That's right.
And future viewers, and you know, and again with the discipline of art in so many different ways, whether it's music or the paint or however it may be. I mean, if you touch the life of one child and motivate, I mean,
that's right.
You know, you've really expanded that horizon, because art is discipline.
I have had parents complain that their kids want to go to the museum too often.
So
that's a good problem to have. And those kids are advertising LACMA through social media. And so, there's this idea that it is, you know, it's a place for everyone.
Well, I think, and you've been the major key to make that happen. I mean, from a stodgy old kind of museum where just West Side folks go to a really a community museum in the sense of from top to bottom, and the experience that you're bringing to the County Museum of Art. You and your team, and directors would be congratulated on that.
Well, as you know, it takes a village to run an operation as big as LACMA, and there are many, many amazing people. And the partnership with the county has been, actually, it's a world-class partnership and unique in the world.
Well, we're very proud of it. I mean, again, most people don't know that we have this wonderful museum, and your efforts, again, like I said, to be congratulated. Really appreciate all you've done, and appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So,
well, thank you very much.
Any closing comments to tell people how to get there?
Just come to LACMA. You can get there any way. Drive, subway. Well, subway not yet, but buses, and just come and enjoy.
There are bus stops. There's stops for everything.
Everywhere. In fact, they're putting in bike paths now, and so it's easy to get to. Many, many people already come, and it's a great experience also just to see other people. It's a very social experience. It is like a town square. It's coming to a place that's safe and accessible with beautiful things where you can also see other people.
Right, and just the museum, like you said, the Peterson Museum, Page Museum, the whole thing there is there. So
you can spend the day.
Exactly. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Michael Govin, LACMA. Make sure you see it, lacma.org, correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Michael.
Thank you.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Welcome back to Dialed In. My next guest is Howard Sherman. Howard is the interim president and COO of the Music Center, 30-year veteran of the Music Center, and stepped into his new role earlier this year.
Yes.
Thanks for joining me today, Howard.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, I want to say welcome.
Thank you.
How are you enjoying the new role?
I would be lying if I didn't say I loved it. I think after my almost 30 years at the Music Center, the relationships I've built are sort of strong and deep. I think my understanding of how the facility operates, of the county relationship is strong, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Well, that's great. And we welcome you with open arms.
Oh, thank you.
Stephen Roundtree is a great guy.
He is
big
great.
shoes to fill, but
Yes.
somebody with your kind of experience and background, I know we expect a lot of good things.
Well, thank you.
So let's begin by saying, what is the Music
Sure.
Center? I know it's not just one venue, but others may not know, so let our listeners know.
All right. Well, the Music Center is actually 4 theaters. The oldest is the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, which just celebrated its 50th anniversary in December of last year. Then there is the Mark Taper Forum and the Amundsen Theater. And then the 4th building, which is the newest, which opened in fall of '03, is Walt Disney Concert Hall. And they range from the Pavilion being a 3,200-seat home primarily for opera and dance, to the Taper, which is 750 seats, a more intimate venue, the Amundsen, a 2,000-seat Broadway-style house, and then Walt Disney Concert Hall, 2,200 seats, home of the LA Phil and Master Chorale. So it's a huge venue. And for the past 2 years, we've been fortunate enough to be operating and programming the county's Grand Park, which, although not technically part of the Music Center, is really an important piece of all of our offerings.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the piece that's going to draw it all together,
Yes.
I think, at some point, and some of the performances have already done that from
Yes.
the top to the bottom, plus not only the big concerts, but the programming takes a lot of work to the Grand Park.
It does. I would say programming across all 4 theaters in the park is the bulk of what we do. We've got to stay relevant to a 21st century audience. We've got to make sure that all of the people of the County of LA are welcome and know there's something there for them. And it needs to range from free dancing events on the Music Center Plaza on a Friday night to the big tentpole events in the park, 4th of July and New Year's Eve. And New Year's Eve this year had 40,000 people come celebrate New Year's Eve in Grand Park. It was an incredible evening.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to, someday we're going to be at the Central Avenue, right? I mean,
wouldn't that be great?
That'd be great. So,
well, and as downtown is growing, to have the Music Center and the park be a huge part of the new downtown, it's really exciting.
Well, and I think from the very beginning, like in the 60s with the Dorothy Channel, it became the sort of the genesis to sort of bring everything downtown and to where we are today with everything that's going on from the Broad Museum to Disney Hall, everything. I mean, it's a happening place down there, and people just need to know about it.
It's true. And what's interesting, I think, about the Music Center is we have always been at the forefront of the redevelopment of downtown. In the 60s, when the county buildings were going in, the Music Center was a big part of establishing Bunker Hill as a destination.
Exactly.
Then in '03, with the resurgence of downtown, the concert hall opened, and then 2 years ago with Grand Park. I mean, we're a major downtown resident.
And a lot of people don't remember, but the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion was home to the Oscars.
28 years out of 30 years, live from the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion.
Live from the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. A lot of people don't realize. They just see the new place now today up there in Hollywood, but the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, I remember the elegance. I got the opportunity to go to many of those performances and walking down the red carpet. And, of course, I always say when I went down the red carpet, that's when the cameramen changed their film at the time. You know,
it was always fun when during the days of the Oscars, and we'd all be credentialed, and you're right, you'd get to the red carpet, and everybody would look, and then they'd look away.
Yeah, right. So give us some ideas of the kinds of performances that go on down there. You know, everyone knows about the LA Philharmonic, I think. But what other companies perform at the Music Center?
Sure. Well, we have 4 resident companies, plus our own programming, and our 4 resident companies, as you say, the LA Philharmonic and the Los Angeles Master Chorale, both of whom are primarily housed in Walt Disney Concert Hall. They do an incredible season of programs, both in and outside the buildings. They both tour as well, locally and nationally. Then the Los Angeles Opera, which is in the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, which does a season of 5 or 6 operas every year. They, too, are in the community doing their off-grand programming. So it's everything from traditional large-scale opera to really contemporary, very accessible programming. Then you have Center Theater Group, which is in the Taper and the Amundsen, and they do a real range from the big Broadway-style road shows to contemporary plays in the Taper. So there really is something for everybody along those lines. And then our own programming is Gloria Kaufman Presents Dance at the Music Center, which is, if not the West Coast, but certainly California's largest dance program available. And it's a season of shows ranging from contemporary to classical ballet. There's a whole series of outreach, community programming that goes along with it. We do a whole series of free events on the Music Center Plaza all summer long on Friday nights, which are dancing events where you dance to a live band and have dance lessons, to the tentpole events I talked about in Grand Park. I mean, we do, on average, 1,100 events a year. It's
and
a
that's
busy
just
place.
on the facilities,
Yes.
in the Music Center property as such, including Grand Park now.
Yeah, well, if you add Grand Park, the number almost doubles. So yeah, we're well over 2,000 activities between all 5 spaces.
And it's amazing, you know, I mean, I represent 2 million people, and I'm out and around a lot, and it's amazing how many people are really starting to talk about and come downtown to see Grand Park, and then obviously that brings them across the street to the other wonderful facilities that we have.
And it's important for us for people to really understand that the Music Center is their venue. It is a county venue that is incredibly supported by the County of Los Angeles.
Big
Thank
time.
you for that. And it is for everyone. So we need to get everybody down there.
Well, Gustavo, bringing him on board really had a dramatic change, didn't it?
It did. It signified a lot of things. I mean, first, the brilliance of Deborah Borda and the LA Phil. They are one of the most forward-thinking and successful orchestras in the country. But I think it also represented the breadth of artistic talent we have at the Music Center. I mean, you've got Placido Domingo at the LA Opera, Michael Ritchie at Center Theater Group, Grant Gershon running the chorale, our own Renee Williams running the dance program. And there's really nowhere else in the country where all of that happens in one place.
And Gustavo's like a rock star.
He is a rock star.
I always
He is a
amazed
rock
at,
star.
you know, how the kids are attracted to him, and you know, the outreach, I think, of the Music Center programs is absolutely phenomenal. For those of us that are in the political side of this, knowing how important these activities are to reach out to young people. The LA Opera program going into our libraries.
It's incredible. Yeah, the off-grant program they do.
I mean, it's just an absolutely outstanding program, and for the very first time, I mean, many, particularly the areas that come into my district, they've never seen an opera or even know what it's about, and the joy you see. I've attended some of the events.
They're incredible.
And the master chorale. I mean, everyone. I mean, I've seen
our
them.
own education programs. Last year, I looked it up before I joined you today. We experienced art, or we brought art to 17,000 school kids in your district in almost 100 schools last year alone. So
not just in my district, but countywide.
Oh,
I mean,
countywide, it's 5 times
You know, when the big school buses show up downtown, it's an awesome experience to go across there. the program with the disabilities, you know, and all the kinds of things that go on down there. You're really to be commended.
Yeah, thank you. The education programs that you're referring to we're very proud of. I mean, we reach hundreds of thousands of kids every year. The Children's Festival brings 18,000 kids down every year. The Very Special Arts Festival brings thousands of disabled kids down every year. We do international programming for families of all kinds. So it really is an amazing education.
And I think really you've worked hard to reach out not only to the diversity of Los Angeles County, but the diversity of programming, right, globally. I mean, you really have gone, you know, instead of the standard old standards, you've really reached out. Maybe you can give us some ideas, some of the kinds of things that...
Sure. I think the arts have so changed. The traditional arts in the 60s, 70s, and even 80s were very passive, where you would sit and watch a program. 21st century, especially young people today, want something interactive. They want something that they can be a part of the creation of and actively participate in. So a lot of our programming is geared to that. We'll bring in companies from all around the world to showcase cultures of different nations, and then do workshops with young adults and school-age kids to really have them immerse themselves into that culture. The LA Phil's programming is very internationally based. The opera, as well as doing it, Center Theater Group. I mean, the Amundsen is an incredible array of cultures.
You know, art is, like I tell everyone, art is forever.
Yeah.
And so if you touch the life of a young person, some people are fortunate enough to be able to do it professionally.
Right.
But many do it for enjoyment.
Yeah, even if you're not a professional.
Right, and so you can do it forever.
Yeah.
And it's really, and it's a discipline.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care whether it's music, whether it's art, whatever it may be, you have to be able to finish something. It's a discipline.
Right.
And it really adds to the quality of life for these young people. And they also are our future customers.
Yeah, it teaches critical thinking, it teaches teamwork, and you're right, it then builds an audience for the future, getting people to understand how critical the arts are to society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing an amazing job down
thank
there,
you.
and we're excited about it. And,
we're proud
and again,
of it.
with all the 4 venues in addition to Grand Park, it's a phenomenal place to go.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. We'll make sure that everyone knows. And Howard, I appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
My pleasure.
It's Howard Sherman, our COO and interim president of the Music Center here in Los Angeles County. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Dad, when are you going to come home?
I'm already there.
I'm your imaginary friend. Oh, I'm
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Thank you again for tuning in to Dialed In. I want to thank our special guests, Michael Govan and Howard Sherman, for taking the time to join me today. The Museum of Art and the Music Center are 2 of Los Angeles County's premier venues to take in arts and culture right here in our own backyard. If you've never been before, come to LACMA and walk underneath the levitated mast, snap a photo amongst the streetlights of urban light, and go inside to view one of the nation's largest and highly acclaimed collections of art. Then head over to the Music Center. Take in a performance at the Mark Taper Forum or an opera at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, or see an event inside our Disney Hall. To plan your visit to the Museum of Art, visit lacma.org. To find tickets for a performance at the Music Center, just visit musiccenter.org to view a calendar of events for all 11 venues. Thank you again for tuning in to Dial In. We'll be back next month with an all-new show.
Maybe he's really focused.
Maybe he likes spinning the wheels.
Maybe he just loves trucks.
Preoccupation with objects is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today